don't you worry about a thing. You ain't alone in this. You're just a success story waiting to happen. Trust me on that. Every bump in the road is just an opportunity wearing a clever disguise. Welcome to the Hounds of Business Community, where we don't just sit around twiddling our thumbs. Nope. We turn those obstacles into mighty fine stepping stones. This here's a place where high-level entrepreneurs and sharp professionals gather to grow their businesses and mindsets, kind of like how a good old gumbo needs the right ingredients to be something special. Ideas thrive here, and collaborations? Well, they're as natural as sweet tea on a hot day. Success? It's a journey, and we're fixing to walk that road right beside you. Now, don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn for all the latest tips and insights. We're talking about the kind of wisdom that'll keep you ahead of the game. And while you're at it, head on over to our YouTube channel. We've got ourselves a treasure trove of videos, from expert interviews to webinars, everything you need to stay sharp in this fast-moving world of business. The Hounds of Business Community? Well, we ain't just a network, we're a movement. So why not come on and be part of something bigger? Join us today and let's turn your business journey into a real Southern success story. Together, we'll achieve greatness, just like crawfish and singing on a Friday night.
Just like crawfish and singing on a Friday night. Dadgummit. Hey, welcome everybody. I'm already seeing the comment section blowing up. Thank you so much, Hounds, friends of the Hounds. So good to see you. Let's give a shout out real quick. Seeking Knowledge Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. April Wyatt, Living with Intention. That is a Hounds ambassador, dear friend of mine. She's got a great audio room. Oh, wow. Who else? Henry Garcia, thank you so much for showing up. Matt T, always in the house. Sam Hall, always good to see you, my friend. The hat game is strong with you and I, brother. And Royce Blake, always supporting. So thank you all. Hey, John Kirkhoff. Wow. Look at this packed house. So I won't talk too long. Nobody really came to see me talk today. But these three rock stars on the subject and educational presentation, building empathy-driven leaders. These folks are absolutely the top of their game, both multiversed in corporate, military, and academia. So this is going to be great fun. These folks aren't just academics and theorists. These are practitioners. These are folks who made things happen and are making things happen that can support your business, whether it's a startup, scale up, or corporate entity. You guys take notes on this. This is going to be amazing. So just real quick, if you're not familiar with who I am and what I do, I am Mike Asherbrander, the proud and humble leader of the Hounds of Business Community. Really just full of heart-centered, high-level professionals. We're getting things done without the pitch slap with a P, and spamming people. Long story short, if you haven't noticed me, and about 2 or 3 years ago, I had a problem. All right, I loved helping people in finance. I'm a fiduciary. I run around, help people, uh, but nobody wanted to hear about it. Okay, and I thought I was defective. When COVID hit, they said I can't go out and play anymore, and I said, my goodness, I might be homeless, right? I didn't understand social media, especially LinkedIn, right? So I didn't know how to transfer the know, like, and trust and building relationships that would turn into something special and help me grow my business, connect with people, share problems. That was a mystery to me. So I figured it out because, hey, long story short, I don't like to talk about me much, and I don't like to do the hardcore traditional sales method of pretending not to sell, but sell anyway, and that kind of stuff. So we created by accident, all right, we started the Hounds of Business Community for heart-centered, high-level professionals, an ecosystem that can help you with the resources and tools that you need to grow your business. Because we have an impact to make in this world, and we probably won't make an impact on all the things that drive you crazy in your life, on the news. Think of all the stuff going on out there. And we could, lots of people could make an impact, but they won't because they don't have the support and resources to get it done. That's where we step in, guys. So, not a long story, but I want to make sure people understand it. If you're already successful and you're trying to go next level, you're ambitious, or you just might be starting off, right? Plug in, check us out. We have a group call every Tuesday. We got them scattered out throughout the month. I will put that in the chat after I get done talking here real quick, and we move on to the speakers. But really, hey, what you give in is what you give out. What you put in, what you do for others. Hey, this is it. They expect us to say we're great, right? That's what we do, right? We talk about our business and how great it is and solution. There's nothing wrong with that. But imagine having hundreds or even thousands of super pros running around telling everybody you're great. So you can't buy that at the corner store. You can't manufacture that. That's the difference between advertising and publicity. All right. So that's what we've set up here. The challenges we face on social media, being rented space and competitive space, we pull them off. We pull quality people that we want to do business with. They could be ideal clients. They could be referral partners. We pull them off that rented and competitive space of link, social media, LinkedIn, whatnot, and put them where we can foster and nurture those know, like, and trust relationships that will turn into try and buy and then fierce advocates. So I actually did really good. I summed that up, but I don't want any strays out there. And this is how we do it. Practice your dadgum kindergarten skills. Give value, generate curiosity, right? And attract the right folks. No more dog catching out there. No more chasing stuff. Don't want to be caught with the hardcore sales stuff. Here we like to attract, bring value, and let those things foster naturally, right? It's the difference between farming and fishing, all right, hunting, right? There's nothing wrong with hunting, but I want to plant the seeds, foster the ecosystem, and let that continuous business growth happen season after season. Y'all with me on this? All right. So check us out. I will put that in the chat. You can go our YouTube. This will also be on there. This presentation, all the other library of great podcast experts. We're going to amp it up a notch coming into the new year. And really, we have also hey, we have a very large media network, so we're always looking for good people and stories to push out there, guys. So don't do it alone. Hey, growing your business, right, is hard enough alone. Plug into folks and people and resources through the pack to the Hounds of Business that can help you get there. So I want to make sure you guys knew that we're available. And also, hey, I like to do one-on-ones. I like to help people figure things out, customize it. So here's the three things with the pack, and I'll end here. Number one, you might need some tips. You might need tips from me to get your business to the next level, whatever you're facing and struggling with. And we'll do that. People say, why? I'll tell you why, because I'm a lazy marketer. That's why it's so much easier for me to go out there and help you be honest. And the next time someone complains about social media or business, or I'm not cut out for entrepreneurship, you say, I know a redneck. I know a group of fantastic people in the house, and you refer us. Number two, you don't need me. There's multiple times where someone needed some other expert, right? There's too many options out there. It's easy to get lost in a sea of too much. We're overwhelmed with too many options, and we're not sure what's the best fit for us, or help what's even real anymore. So we function as that relationship broker, right? Do a diagnosis like your medical doctor would, and see who and what would help you out, the best at the moment. And number three, I can help you, and I'm going to get excited and wave my hands around like a muppet because that's what I do, and you're going to know it. So that's how we do in the Hounds. I cannot wait to go further with these guys. So we're going to bring up first and foremost the one and only Scot Heathman. And let's see. Let me read his bio. He's got a great bio. Great guy, stand-up guy. So let's read this. All right. J. Scot Heathman's life is marked by a desire to shoot for the skies. Raised in Minnesota with traditional Midwest values, he was an active participant in school sports in his community. However, his greatest passion emerged at just 3 years old when he was when he saw Star Wars in the theater for the first time. I remember that. Uh, that day, he knew he was destined to fly airplanes. This dream prompted a 25-year career in the Air Force, during which time he became a colonel, combat instructor pilot, squadron commander, and eventually an Air Force base commander, leading and serving roughly 14,000 personnel. In 2019, however, his resilience will be tested beyond anything he had ever experienced. Following a car accident, doctors discovered he had a brain tumor. The next year was spent in observation and eventually culminated in a near 10-hour surgery. Despite 4 months of extreme therapy to learn how to walk, talk, and see and regain his balance, Scott returned to his position as the base commander for Scott Air Force Base, Illinois, only to go through 30 rounds of radiation, all while under global pandemic. This experience taught him how impactful his own lessons could be in inspiring others, and prompted a unique opportunity to elevate others. So in 2022, he retired from the Air Force and set out to bring his own ideas of courage and proven leadership style to help corporate and senior leaders command their own cultures. Today, Scott inspires CEOs to frontline leaders to command with courage so they can unleash the force within their team, ignite their innovative spirit, and skyrocket their bottom line. His commander level coaching and training programs, along with his keynote presentations, inspire his clients to lead with relatability and respect, and embrace their vulnerability and emotional intelligence for positive change. Scott has master's degrees in organizational leadership, organizational planning and strategy, and national security and strategic studies. and is certified in emotional intelligence and Wiley's everything curriculum and assessments designed to take leadership performance to the highest altitudes. He earned his 2024 Emotional Intelligence Facilitator and Retired Colonel of the Year award from the International Association of Top Professionals. He is also the co-author of The Military Effect and upcoming book. Actually, I think it landed Command with Courage, Elevating Beyond Adversity. All right. Without further ado, let's bring up the one and only J. Scott Heathman. Where are you at back there? Let's drag him out the green room. How are
Hey,
you?
Mike, how you doing?
Oh man, that's the most I've read all year, man. That's great. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I told you don't need to read those words. Just say, hey, little Scotty Heathman's here. Let's just go. You know?
Oh, come on now. Hey, well earned. Seriously, here's what I like about you. You're well versed. You understand how to speak at all different levels, right? Military, civilian, corporate, entrepreneurship. But here's what I like most about you, and I'll let you present your amazing presentation. People would follow you without rank. They did, right? I've seen it time and time again. People like you. You lead from the front, you get in there, you can relate to people, you're likable, and yet you still have the authority to get the job done, and people still respect that authority. So, hats off to you, my friend. It's a blessing to have you in the entrepreneurship and the corporate entity world. And hey, without that, we're just going to let you know, hey, folks, take notes out there in the audience. We got a packed house today. So excited. Cherry, good to see you. Take notes, everyone, and we'll do our best to get the questions. Okay. So if you have questions out there, go ahead and put them in the chat and we will do our very best. And we have two more speakers after Scott. So don't leave. All right. Don't change that channel. All right. This is a comprehensive educational presentation. It's not a cheap infomercial. So get those pencils out, guys. All right. All right, Scott, I will leave you here. And if you need anything, I will be right back there, brother. Take it away. Yep, I did. Yeah.
Oh, you cut me off. See? I love you, Mike. I appreciate it. Seriously, thank you so much. I'm a little nervous today because I am bracketed by two amazing PhDs that you're going to hear from today. But I think you're going to find that the three of us, we kind of run in the similar circles, and we're going to kind of play off on each other's content here a little bit because we all kind of bring something unique yet very important. And today we're talking about leadership. So I get asked a lot, what does it mean to command with courage? And I'm going to break that down for you today because I think over the 25 years, there's little bits and pieces that it's taken me a long time to kind of put this together. And it kind of fit really nice and neat into the acronym of the word courage. And, as a military guy, I'd be wrong not to use an acronym. I mean, we're full of acronyms, right? And I try not to use them as much these days because, I'm trying to get through leaving the uniform and coming out into the corporate world a little bit more and spending time with companies and nonprofits and academia. But it's really neat how the word courage kind of helped me describe what it means to command with courage. So let's just break this down letter by letter and we'll walk through this. And then if we do have some time, I'll leave it up to Mike to kind of direct for questions and things like that. So I call these the ingredients of leadership. Okay, so let's start with the C. The C for me stands for command of yourself. And I would ask you, before you go to work, who is the first person that you see each and every day? Well, it's you, right? I would hope that you look at yourself in the mirror, or somebody holds one up for you at home. But it's yourself. And what this means to me, command of yourself, means you're in control of your actions, your behaviors, your personality, your attitude. The morning or the day should start out with the choices you're about to make. And as a leader, whether you're at the top of the food chain or you're a frontline leader, there's folks all around you that are watching, listening, observing, and they're picking apart what they see of your leadership. So it's incredibly important that you have complete command of yourself each and every day. Doesn't mean you have to have 100% in the tank going to work each and every day, okay? But you still get to make these choices, okay? You do not have to resort to the phrase, well, this is just how I am. This is how I grew up. No, you can do some things about the way that you lead others. Okay, so command of yourself, I think it's always important to start with that level of self-awareness first, because that's the building block for everything else. Okay, what about O? Operate with optimism. And I would tell you that a lot of people, if you were to interview some of the subordinates that I've had over the years, even some of my bosses, they would say I have a smiling problem. Doesn't mean I'm happy all the time, but I do operate with a high level of optimism. And it's incredibly important, I think, even during the times of adversity, that you operate with this, because you will find that you can better operate and better perform when you have a higher level of optimism. Okay. There's a great quote, and I don't think I've ever told anybody this before. This comes from the movie Inner Space, which is a 1980s flick with Dennis Quaid and Martin Short. And I know some of you out there know this, but probably some of you out there have never heard of this movie. Go watch it, Inner Space. And there's a point in the film where things are going south, and Dennis Quaid, he has a beautiful quote that I've said to myself in times where things were just going to crap. And it's, when things are at their darkest, it's a brave man that can kick back and party. All right. Now, I'm not saying, okay, when you're screwing up, it's time to go throw a party. Okay. I am using that, though, as motivation, as good positive self-talk to keep us on a positive vector. Okay. I have said this phrase while flying airplanes and experiencing emergencies, whether I've lost an engine, or I'm getting shot at, or I'm leading an Air Force base during a 200-year flood, or some other emergency that we have on the base. It's almost like a mantra of mine, just to tell myself, we can get through this. Okay. Because the moment that I start getting negative with my team, that chemistry and that climate that I'm now kind of brewing, it's deadly. It is deadly for an organization. And as soon as the leadership at the top starts losing optimism in the things that they do, or something that they need to overcome, the rest of the team will mimic that. They just have this natural tendency. We as human beings like to kind of mimic things, right? Like, it's the same thing as if you go to a stadium and everybody starts cheering, why do you start clapping, right? Sometimes you don't even know why you're clapping. You may not even be rooting for the teams. There's something powerful about optimism. And one of my favorite positivity experts out there, Shawn Achor, who writes a lot about the happiness advantage, he talks a lot about how a brain at positive is 30%, has the ability to perform 30% higher than a brain at negative, neutral, or stressed. So any chance you can keep that level of optimism and positivity rolling, boy, that's just money in the bank. It may still not turn out the way you want, but at least I made a choice to operate that way. Okay. The U. Okay. Unleash your empathy. There are too many times, and we as human beings tend to judge the 10% we see of people, yet we have no understanding about the 90% that's brewing inside someone, our employees, our direct reports, our colleagues, the people we collaborate with. We make all of these snap decisions and judgments about people without really understanding what's going on. To get below the surface of the water with people, we got to spend time with people. We got to understand, what are they dealing with? What is life like working on the front line? What is life like working on the manufacturing floor? Okay, what is it like being a master welder in this big manufacturing plant, or working in HR that's dealing with all of these humanistic problems and issues day after day, wondering why some of these folks are burnt out? We have to, as leaders, get out of the office, okay, shut down email for a few minutes and walk about. Leadership by walking around is essential. And I think it's really one of the best ways that you can really get to a higher level of empathy and understand what your people are going through. And oh, by the way, everything that's happening at home, they're still bringing with them to work. They may be putting on a facade. Sometimes they do show it, but they're bringing it with them. And when we have a better understanding of not only the challenges they're dealing with at work, but everything they're bringing from home, or at least a little bit of a degree of what they might be bringing into the work setting, we're armed with a wealth of knowledge. And we'll soon find that developing people is not just a paintbrush that we just brush everybody with. We all need different levels of development. And when we understand like which people are visual learners, which people are audio learners, which people are introverts, extroverts, we're better armed with how to kind of interact with them and actually put them in the best position to succeed in the organization. And oh, by the way, the byproduct of all of that is increased levels of trust. And isn't that what we all want? Is an organization that has a culture of high trust? That's the team that I want to work for. And that's something that takes a lot of work. But we just have to step away as leaders and start getting in, spending some time, precious time, I get it, with individuals. But when I can meet them in that role, I will not be spending and wasting time on the back end on drama that ensues because I don't know my people. I'm looking to trade that amount of time preemptively, proactively with what I can do and maybe, ward off a hurdle before it gets worse, right? Okay, how about the R here? This is a kind of an acronym within an acronym, RUM, okay? I like RUM. I hope you all like RUM. But what that stands for is recognize, understand, and manage emotions. So here's where the EQ piece gets into this. I think if there's one skill that you could double down on personally or that you could bring in for your team as far as development, it's emotional intelligence. And that's your ability to recognize, understand, and manage not only your emotions, but those of others, okay? That is so critical to the relationship management that we're looking for in the work setting. It's not about making friends with everybody. We do not actually have to be friends with everybody we work with. What I used to tell my team is you will respect them, right? There's a delineation there. Where we work is not Facebook. We're not trying to collect likes and friends from every single person we work with. There are going to be people that, hey, we're not going to be hanging out, but we can still work together and respect one another. But first, we got to understand our emotions and how they interact with someone else. And when we have a better understanding of that, our relationship management goes up. And then again, so does trust, so does the culture. And now we're just performing at a higher level. We're seeing more productivity, more efficiencies, because we're not dealing with all of the other issues that would normally find themselves resonant in an HR office, right? So recognize and understand emotions, both in yourself and within others. Okay, A, the best leaders out there ask more questions. I had an amazing command chief when I worked at Scott Air Force Base, and he used to say to me, hey, boss, you got 2 ears for a reason. You got to talk less. And he was so true. It was so true. And when I think back to some of the best leaders I've had over the 25 plus years, they were the ones that asked a lot of questions. In staff meetings, they would think about questions to ask and listen at the highest levels of active listening that I've ever seen. And the ones that kind of struggled, they were the ones that were kind of talking over people and things like that. And it was a little bit frustrating at times because I never thought that they were taking in the right information. They were only interested in taking in the information that they wanted to hear. Okay. And then applying some of that confirmation bias to that. And unfortunately, we're not as open and curious enough to explore new possibilities. So ask more questions, leaders. It's essential that we do that. Okay, G, grow into your resilience. I think there's a couple people on this call today that'll talk about this and have firsthand experience, including me. Adversity is a gift. And I think when we get to the point we can acknowledge and accept that, we're actually in a more resilient mindset. The key to this is, again, acknowledging and accepting what's happening. I could not control I had a brain tumor while I was a commander of an Air Force base. So that just tells you bad things are going to happen no matter what your rank, your role, or position in a company is. Okay. But what are you going to do? Okay. There's some things I can't control, not going to worry about it. I'm going to lean into what I can control and figure out a way to just keep going. And when I can't, I'm going to surround myself with the help and support that I need. And I tell you, I had all of that in spades because I wasn't embarrassed to say, I need some help. And I think that's such an essential quality for leaders to recognize in order for them to grow their own resilience. Even leaders at the top need to work on this and acknowledge this. And oh, by the way, when they see you as a leader going through this, they see you as human. And that's such a beautiful place to be, right? The last one, E, embrace your vulnerability. It kind of plays off the resilience piece here a little bit. You know, I had a choice whether I wanted to really talk about what I was dealing with after I came out of my surgery. And I chose to talk about it. And I don't think I could have recognized how much of an impact that was going to have on my organization and the culture. Because when I started talking about it, when the senior most leader starts talking about what they went through, it kind of opened the door for a lot of people to talk about the challenges they're dealing with. And it was such an amazing position to be in. And there was literally no lack of help and support for anyone out there, because they knew that if their leader was willing to share with us some of the trials and tribulations that they were going through and the things that they were learning, it was okay for them to do the same. And still to this day, I still get people from the base saying, hey, my sister is dealing with this. Would you mind talking with them? Hey, I've got a friend dealing with this. Do you have somebody or know somebody that could maybe I could talk to? It is so amazing when you find leaders that are willing to embrace a little bit of their vulnerability, talk out loud. That's kind of self-talk out loud, because now you know what's on their mind, and you know them at a human level. So those are my ingredients of leadership. These are kind of the things I've been thinking about for 25 years, and the things that I continuously apply to my own personal leadership. But these are also the critical things that I talk a lot about when I'm out with different companies or coaching individuals. These are the areas that I think are the ones to really, really invest in. So Mike, that's what I got for you today. I'd be interested in any questions you got out there.
Thank you for that. I told you guys take notes, man. That is stuff that you can put into place now. But again, hey, here's what I found. Amateurs do things alone. How do I know that? I've been an amateur for 40 years, right? I don't advise it. All right. However, top level athletes, professionals, business owners, all of them, they have coaches, they have guides, experts, consultants, folks who've been there, done that. So all these speakers, they failed more times than you've tried, and that's why we put them up here, and that's why we talk to them about their services, right? So real quick before we go, because I want folks to kind of know who you are. Your transition from the Air Force, right? How
Mhm.
has that really influenced your approach in leadership in civilian organizations today, Scott?
You know, I don't talk about transitions. I don't use that word much anymore for a military member coming into civilian life. I really do feel like it's a transformation, because it's not just the language barrier and things like that. I think, most military transition experts, they know how to tackle those things. I think it's the mindset. And one of the things that I've had to do is really kind of get after self-coaching and think about where do my values now stand today, because they did shift a little bit. Wanting to start my own business, well, autonomy became a really big value of mine, versus before it was all about the team. You know, um, elevating others, that became such a clear purpose for me, because I felt like I was already doing that in the military, although bounded, by smaller organizations, even though I've led organizations of 14,000 and 36,000 people. It's a lot of people, right? But I honestly felt like I could do a lot more. And what I see when I go into different companies, especially when they need help with their culture, they're sometimes not looking at the most obvious things. I mean, one of the things that I pick up a lot when companies ask me to come in is like, hey, we need help with our culture. I'm like, yeah, but the first thing is you probably should fix the broken front door. Like, I mean, so there's all these little things that I've been able to pick up because of my attention to detail and things like that from military life, that I think sometimes just companies miss the basic obvious things. And, it's okay to get a third party look at some of this stuff. And I just feel like, yeah, I can provide a real honest, direct observation on some of these things and help them so that they can become the best and make money. That's what they want to do. So, that's where I try to help them out, is these little things that they can do internally that they're just wasting time on, or people are showing up in the parking lot, they don't even want to go into work. Those are the problems that I love to tackle, because I've spent so many years leading teams, so I think there's sometimes a disconnect between, we are so team oriented in the military. Sometimes there's not the same level of aspects I see within companies and organizations that is missing. And, I think that's where a lot of military vets can do a lot of good.
There we go. Papa's got the mute button on. All right. Hey, well said, Scott. Appreciate you. And you said it all right there. Make money and have fun doing it. That's what we're all about in Hounds of Business. And that's what you're about. You're a fun guy, but you're serious. And listen, we can't see the forest from the trees. Sometimes you have to have out, a lot of times, if not all the time, it's a good idea to have someone from the outside come in, take a look, and say, hey, right? It's like if you had a debilitating disease, you probably want a second or third opinion. That's what these panelists are here for. Hey, you know, save time, money. Don't try to do it yourself. Get outside guidance. So appreciate you, Scott. Thank you, all the folks in the comment section. Keep them coming. Ask questions. Share your thoughts in here, and network with other hounds and friends of the hounds inside of here. This is what it's all about. So thank you so much, Scott Heathman. Everybody go to elevatingothersllc.com, elevatingothersllc.com, and we'll see you back in the green room, brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. It's good to see you.
You got it. All right. So get that QR code scan for the last few minutes. We're going to get Debbie Radish-Respess. See, I can say things when I practice 1,000 times. So let me go through, because she is a special one. I've met her through Tanya Eberhardt with Brandface LLC. And she has a mountain of experience in HR, and now she can bring that for her own business, through her own business, to the company's small, mid, and large cap companies. So Debbie's transition from corporate skepticism to becoming a beacon of strategic clarity is a testament to the transformative power of alignment. Grounded in values of integrity and a steadfast people first philosophy, from an early age, she navigated the corporate world, where her principles often clashed with prevailing practices. Yet her resolve only grew stronger, recognizing her potential to instigate meaningful change. Casting aside the constraints of her corporate armor, she embarked on a new path, founding a consultancy dedicated to genuine transformation. At Invisible Horizons, Debbie and her dedicated team offer their deep expertise to CEOs and executive leaders, guiding them to cultivate purpose-driven teams. Their mission is to help leaders align their organizational talent with its core mission, fostering environments where strategic alignment and human values converge for unprecedented success. Without further ado, let's bring Debbie up. Where is she at? There she is. I could go back in that green room. Boom! There you are. Oh, I'm waking up finally on a Monday. How are you today, Debbie?
Man, I am ready to go. I got a lot of good notes from Mr. Scott, so I'm hoping that I can transition well into my topic.
Isn't he fantastic? This whole panel, that's what I mean. You know, instead of going out there and try to hunt for food, how about you plant seeds and hang out with rock stars like this all day? See my life? It's a
Absolutely.
great life. So, hey, bring it on. No more strays out there. Well, Debbie, without further ado, thank you for bringing your expertise and extensive knowledge, and more so, just your care. You really care. You're not cookie cuttered. You go out there, you make customized solutions, and you listen and try to figure out what they need, not what you just have to sell, right? And that's a common theme amongst the hounds and these amazing people on this panel. So, without further ado, take it away. If you need something from me, I'll be backstage. Everybody, grab a pen and paper in the comments. And hey, chime in with your thoughts, chime in with questions, and we'll do our best to get a hold of them. Thank you all so much for showing up. Debbie, hey, take it away. I got my pencil ready. See that? I'm
Well,
ready to go.
thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm honored to actually be on, not only with the Hounds of Business, but Mike, got to meet Mandolen. I can't wait to hear her, kind of what she's going to bring to the table. And Scott, that's great stuff. I love the courage. And, one of the things that I want to work on today, or just kind of talk about, is actually exemplary leadership. Whether you are a business owner or a leader in a business, it's really important to walk through what does that look like and feel like for you. One of my ultimate favorite books, if you have not read it, it is called The Leadership Challenge by Kouzes and Posner. I always get the name wrong, so I physically have to look. But there's 5 areas that they like to focus on, and I have adapted that into into everything that I do, whether it's executive coaching, leadership coaching, it could be our strategy and whatnot. But I really quickly want to go through this. Mike, I don't know if I'm going to need the 15 minutes, but I'm just going to start with the very first one, and that's modeling the way. My 3 values in my company is purpose-driven, people-centered, character first. And with modeling the way, it's really how we clarify values, and being able to articulate those values. People watch more of our behaviors than we do listen to what's being said. So if you've got kids, you know that they are going to watch you like a hawk. Our employees do the exact same thing. So it's really important to model the behaviors that you want modeled, as well as communicate them. It's setting that example by aligning actions with those shared values. And sometimes that's asking the employees, hey, what is valuable to you? Why are you working for us? So that everyone understands that modeling the way is not just from the top down, it's across the organization. And it's truly embracing the behaviors that make your company different. We all talk about empathy or emotional intelligence. We want to have values of trust and respect. Those should be given. What matters to me and what I do with working with the clients that I work with is, what does that look like for you? If I were to walk into, let's say a company's got 10 different offices, am I going to see and feel the same things because everyone is embracing those behaviors in a way that is consistent without losing personality? So the very first step of exemplary leadership is just modeling the way, making sure that you've got that out there. The second thing is inspiring a shared vision. It's really important to be able to look 2-3 years down the road and say, you know what, the vision is X. It's exciting. I can enable my employees to be able to make that vision a reality. I'm going to appeal to them to utilize their strengths, to utilize their influence into how to actually make that vision a reality. When you inspire, it means that you're having conversations. I'm going to talk about what Scott just brought up, was that optimism and asking more questions. That's how you inspire that shared vision, because you are engaging with others, to have those conversations. It's also okay to understand that the vision may change. I'm going to use the US here. We're going through an election period. So what we might have envisioned a year ago versus where we feel we're going to be now, that may have changed. Keeping that communication open, being honest, being authentic, not being afraid to be a little vulnerable. That's kind of what made me a unique HR person, was that I hated following the rules, but I could always inspire that vision because it was important to me to engage everyone along the journey. The third thing I have is challenging the process. This is sometimes really hard for leaders because they feel that the word challenge is a derogatory term. It's very hard. I'm going to question somebody. What challenging the process means from my perspective is that you're actually searching for opportunities by looking at things differently, looking at ways to innovate and improve processes, improve what you do, how you do it. It's taking risks. It's experimenting. It's, as John Maxwell says, failing forward. It's actually giving permission to your employees, to yourself, to actually step in and go, what's the worst that can happen? I'm going to trip and fall. Okay, I'm going to surround myself with the right people to help pick me up, or I'm going to help pick that person up. And we're going to see what comes out of this. When you challenge the process, it's not about challenging the person. It's about challenging actions, behaviors. One of the things that I absolutely hated the most is when, well, we've always done it this way. Okay, it worked then or not. Why not think of a different way to do it? It's not to say that it has to change, but why not try? The whole Yoda thing, right? There is no try, do. So do it. Why not do it? So challenge that process and encourage a culture of failing forward, of not being afraid to take a risk, of not being afraid to do something a little different, and empowering those people to do so, which then goes into enabling others to act. That's number 4. And this is where you're actually giving permission to the employees, to your staff, to your clients, etc., to foster collaboration, which builds trust, it builds respect, and it helps facilitate really strong relationships. It also really helps to strengthen others' their ideas about themselves, where they're, again, not afraid to take an action. They may learn self-determination, better critical thinking, developing a competence. And John, thanks. Your failing forward is a new and scary. It's new and scary, but it's well worth it. Let me just tell you, if you're not going to kill or maim somebody, and I jokingly say that, what is the worst that can happen? The problem is we get stuck in our heads, which also stops us from enabling others to act. We stop ourselves because the stories that are in our heads make us not take an action. It makes us not put our toe in the water. It makes us just sit in our zone of comfort instead of our zone of genius. The last thing is encouraging the heart. This is where you are recognizing contributions, and contributions are not just the successes. Sometimes it's actually saying, man, you took a risk. It didn't play out, but that's okay. We have learned something new and different. I appreciate the fact that you were not afraid to get outside of your comfort zone. You also want to encourage the heart for individual excellence. The whole praise in public and have those difficult conversations in private. That actually encourages our heart. When we know what we do well, but also maybe what we're not doing as well, that helps us step into our zones of genius. I keep coming back to that. It's really being able to show up on what we do, how we do it, and encouraging others' hearts. They're going to encourage others. It is a ripple effect. It's the drop in the water that goes. It's also celebrating the values. Again, that goes back to modeling the way. It's celebrating the victories. Sometimes it's celebrating the failures. I lost some business. I did a really, really good job with the proposal. I just didn't get it. That's still a victory to me because I learned so much about the process. And encouraging the heart helps create a spirit of community. And what that means is it's the community built on modeling the way, the behaviors that you want to see. It's helping people understand what that long-term shared vision is going to be and their role in making that a success. It's giving people permission to challenge the process, to not be afraid to bring up new, crazy, unique ideas. It also helps others to just act, do it, just do it, step into it. So my last two things is becoming a better leader actually is a daily habit. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes courage. And leadership is really an affair of the heart. We don't lead anything but people. We lead people, we manage projects or tasks, but I have to love what I'm doing. I want to be a servant leader. That means that it is an affair of the love. It's a love affair of people. And it's got to come from your heart. And these are just 5 very easy things to do. They're not, I should say simple. They may not be easy, but I know that everyone can do it. So Mike, that is what I've got.
I'm here. I'm not on mute this time. Absolutely. No, thank you for that. That book. I love that book in college. I know it's the what was it, Kuntz and Poser or something like that. Oh my gosh. I remember the only thing I ever remember, because my memory is about that big. It talks about transactional and transformational. This is what you're good at implementing, great at implementing in companies. So here's what it is, right? The daggum mission statement on the wall that no one really subscribes to, right? Like we passed by it at the water fountain. I remember those days. Transactional management. When the cat's away, the mice will play. Transactional or transformational leadership, which you help people actually put in place, realness, right? Genuine cultures that improve bottom line. When the cat's away, the mice will play. No, when the cat's away, the mice do what the cat wants them to do because they have a shared vision and purpose. They really truly believe like they belong. They're happy to go to work. They contribute like they actually own it. And that's what you bring to the table, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it really is about when people understand what they are allowed to do. It's about giving them permission to be who they are, showing up in their zone of genius. It is amazing what happens within organizations when they actually do that, when they stop trying to manage people and they start leading them in a way that tugs at the heart. People are going to show up so very differently.
Yeah. And if you don't believe that, look at Scott Heathman, right? There's your proof and example right there. And that's what Debbie helps people do. It's like, hey, let's bring this culture to one that, even if you're not, oh, I don't need that kumbaya. Listen, it's not about that. This is practical. And I heard Scott and you say it. I want to help companies do better with their bottom line. Yeah, but what are companies made of? People. Right? They're still made of people.
Yep.
So thank you, Debbie, for bringing that to the table. You all have to check out the QR code, go connect and follow Debbie. Her content is amazing. And she's got so many resources out there. Oh, where can folks find you? And what's the next step if company leaders, department leaders want to get a hold of you?
Yeah, my website or LinkedIn. My website has tons of links to just schedule a call with me or DM me on LinkedIn.
You got it. Thank you so much for attending. Love having you in the Hounds of Business, Debbie. You're a rock star. Big, as skillful as you are, big-hearted. So dadgummit, listen, and if she's not the best fit, she's going to find someone. She knows everyone, right? So if it ain't the best fit, listen, she's a great resource to tell you honestly, go here, save you time and money. All right. So thank you so much. And we're going to move to our, hey, last but not least, Dr. Mandolen Mull. All right, we're going to go, and I think she has something to say. We're going to pull her up here. I think she has something to chime in on the last two. Let's get that done. Boom. Thank you, Debbie. Welcome, Mandolen. And I know you have some tech issues, everyone. So if it's a little delayed, a little choppy, that's okay. I think we're both in the woods. So thank you so much, Mandolen. How are you today?
Mike, I'm living the dream, my friend. How are you?
Oh, I'm waking up on a Monday finally. How can you not? I got pages of notes for free, so everyone's welcome, right? And now we have you here. So let me give your bio, and then I'll let you chime in if you want to add something to the other speakers and give your 2 cents on that, because you got some really good thoughts here. You're the real deal. All right, so everyone, let me introduce Mandolen. Having held leadership roles in healthcare, proper property preservation, logistical distribution, and higher education prior to founding the consulting firm and authoring several books, Dr. Mandolen Mull brings her hybridized background to personalized leadership development training. Heavily mentored by a stonemason entrepreneur father, and as the favorite granddaughter of United States Air Force Colonel and Base Commander, her customized approach resonated with audiences ranging from union iron workers to venture capital executives. With a quick wit, yeah, she has a quick wit, and an even quicker ability to build enduring partnerships with those she trains, the feedback she consistently receives is, "You're not just a consultant, you're our consultant." Although she may be pint-sized, Mandolen packs a powerful array of humor, humility, and heart. Having relearned to walk and talk while earning her Ph.D. in organizational development and change, her resilience is her relatability. True to her robust polymath background, and also holds a postdoc in positivity psychiatry, an MBA in international business, and a BS in political science and psychology. Wow. I'm Mr. Pibb, and I'm surrounded by Dr. Peppers. Check this out. So thank you so much. And by the way, not just your brilliance, all the panelists here today, thank you. But the stories and the inspiration, you guys didn't just do this on easy street. You guys fought adversity after adversity to get where you're at today. So I want everybody to take note. These are not folks who just popped up and had an easy life. These are people who fought for what they believe in to get to this position to help you and your organization today. So Mandolen, how are you today, and what do you like to weigh in on the speakers so far?
Okay, so I am stoked to be here, and I love getting to back cleanup because, oh my goodness, did Scott and Debbie give some great stuff, right? So Scott said something where in his acronym he talked about command of yourself. One of the things that I think is powerful is so often we hear things about having to read, saying, no, you need to read yourself. And I think it's important for us to really understand we have to read the room, read ourselves, and read other people all simultaneously, because context is constantly changing. And we're not always thinking through how we calibrate ourselves before we go in and have courageous conversations, before we lead people. What is it that we ourselves are carrying?
I think are we losing Mandolen, or is it just me? Oh,
What is it that they could
oh no, we're losing you.
Okay, am I back?
Oh no.
Am I back?
For now, try not to breathe. I think you'll be fine. Go ahead. Try again.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. No, so it is that idea that we have to have an awareness of what it is that we bring to the table, what is other people bringing to the table, and what is that environment contributing. So it's 3 variables that we have to be aware of and managing at all times. And not doing that is a massive deficit on our part. So I wanted to add that. I know Scott backs me up on that, but I thought that was really important. And then there were two things that I wanted to contribute and continue on with Debbie's conversation, which she talked about behavior watching. So there's something called fundamental attribution bias or fundamental attribution error. And here's what it says, Mike. I judge you based on your behavior. I judge me based on my intentions. And I know this is true. Like if you and I are driving down the road and I accidentally cut you off, very quickly you're going to see me go, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But if you cut me off, you meant to do that. And I am now upset with you. And so if we can think about when we're interacting with folks, right? If we can try to get to what is their intention. So being aware that when we are watching people's behaviors, sometimes they have good intentions, but they don't stick the landing. So making sure that we're creating a little bit of space for grace will allow us to understand more of the alignment of their behaviors, because sometimes behavior can be aberrant. We just kind of go off track. And then I love that Debbie was talking about challenging not a person, but a process. And one of the things that I say there is curious, not combative. When we were kids growing up, Mike, and your parents asked you, why did you do that? That usually didn't mean you had done something good, right? Like that usually meant you had made a mistake. And so we get defensive. And so when people ask us, why did you do it that way? You and I could have genuinely meant it in a very curious way to try to be developmental. But what we find is that people get defensive almost immediately and they get in their own way. And now we've got this other variable introduced into the conversation that's causing problems, and we're not able to communicate in the way we want to. So I wanted to just add that on because I got so excited, Scott and Debbie, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can kind of piggyback on their conversation. So I thought that would be great. So yeah, I had to insert that. Thank you for letting me do that.
No, my pleasure. And I'm just glad we can see and hear you now. So that's good.
Yeah.
I love watching the backstage faces go, oh no, it's great. So we have fun here, like, hey, we can't control all that, right? We do our best no matter what. So, and yes, I see the questions are rolling in. So we'll do our best. We'll bring the folks up if they can stay about 5-10 minutes and, give folks a chance to interact with the audience. But let me ask you some questions because I want to give folks a little bit of background. I love this interactive style that you really like. So a couple things that you do
Yeah.
and do very, very well, because you also teach, right? So you do it and you
Right.
teach, which I love. It's like Dr. CJ, right? Like you actually, you're not just talking about this from a textbook. You help customize training programs and mentoring programs for organizations and companies, right? Leadership development across a lot of industries. You just said it, right?
Yeah.
Even in steel and all this other things, industrial, and bridging the gap between traditional thinking, as you just alluded to, and real world workforce dynamics. So on that note, all right, how can organizations create a culture that values both productivity and employee well-being without sacrificing either one?
Yeah, great question. We cannot have productivity, sustainable productivity without well-being. We simply cannot. But here's the key. We've got to start understanding what we actually mean when we talk about well-being, right? So like, sadly, people are carrying home a lot of workplace drama and trauma in some regards home with them. And it is fundamentally affecting them. We know since 2012, Gallup has been studying employee engagement, and about 80% of employees in any industry, in any place in the world, since 2012, 80% of those employees are disengaged. And so we know that disengaged employees live disengaged lives. Like they're not going home saying work sucked, but life is great. They're going home demoralized. They don't have energy to be creative. They don't have energy to interact with their children. They don't have energy to do house projects or get involved in their communities. They're drained. They don't have discretionary effort or energy to put forward. So when we see that, sadly, when we're trying to talk about well-being, we're just not seeing that cohesion of what does that really mean, and where are organizations talking about the stuff that people are carrying home and what they carry to the workforce. So just really quickly, I've been training iron workers since 2016. I had an iron worker leader tell me, Mandolen, we lost one of our guys. He got in a car wreck and he passed away. And he said, I had to go out his locker and take his belongings to the family. And with tears in his eyes, Mike, he said, they don't train us for that shit. So what he's saying is, who leads the leaders in that regard? And then he's supposed to lead the rest of the team that just lost their colleague. That's fundamentally something we should be addressing. But what do most organizations do? They give you 3 days of bereavement for an immediate family member. They give you 1 day if it's like kind of an extended family member. But you can call an amorphous EAP, these things that don't feel connected. And we're not having real meaningful conversations about the things that are affecting employees. And until we're talking about that, we will never have sustainable productivity long-term for organizations. Sorry, that was a lot that I just packed in.
No, that's great stuff. I love this because I can hear it now. I can hear a lot of folks go, well, listen, we're trying to cut costs. We're not in the business of Dr. Phil. We're not here to do all of this stuff. So what do you say if somebody just says, listen, I do what I do to get by. We have a lot of other pressing issues in the organization. It's just not worth the time or investment. What's the counter to that? I mean, they're like, they're just
Yeah.
looking at the bottom line. So
Yeah,
somebody's
so I
skeptical
always
and goes,
say,
that seems, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I love that because I hear it, right? And so I've asked for the last 2 years, I've asked organizational leaders, if you were to pay your employees for a 40-hour work week, and instead of doing an 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, they worked 8 to 4, what would happen to your productivity? Every single one said it would go up. And I said, then why aren't you doing it? If all you care about is your bottom line, try it out for 3 months. It's experimental. It goes back to what Debbie was saying, trying things out. Organizations have really not leaned into experimental strategies. And even if it failed, let's just say it did. Even if it did, then those executives go back to their boards and their investors, and they get to say, look at how innovative we are. We're trying new things. We're trying to find avenues for more productivity through valuing our employees. And that's the kind of mindsets that we've got to start having, is if all you care about is productivity, the very best machines you've got in your companies cannot run without rest and maintenance. I don't care how high quality, how expensive they are, they will need rest and maintenance. Your employees need it as well. And until you start developing strategies that really meet those needs of your employees, you will not have sustainable success. Because nobody ever says, hey, Mike, you hit all of your metrics, as a reward for next quarter, dial it back 20%. We don't say that. We say, let's keep ratcheting it up, right? And it's killing our employees. Right. You will not have sustainable success without investing in your people, period.
Yeah. And Mindy chimed in. Thank you so much, Mindy, for chiming in. Sustainable productivity. Because I know you like to interact. Anything you like to add or to compliment with the comment here? You don't have to. I just know you like to jump on in.
Yeah, I'm checking it out. Isn't it better to measure on the averages so you can be reasonable? Yeah. So yeah. Okay. I am really against any kind of standardized strategies. So I think there has to be a lot of understanding. So going to Mindy, and thank you for the question here. One of the things that I think about that's really fascinating to me, we're coming up on the holidays right now, right? So we're coming up on Thanksgiving. That's when our employees are going to be calling in the B team. Like, let's be honest, we would be calling it in too. We'd be phoning it in. And yet, most of the time, those metrics are not allocating for that downtime. It's not allocating for the human behavioral element, going back to what Debbie was talking about. We don't create that buffer zone. So going to Mindy's point, looking at the averages of that would be an appropriate strategy versus this kind of finite, really stringent type production method. You've got to have some of that buffer, some of that window there.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that. That's awesome. And I'm going to dive in a little bit on the same wheelhouse, if that's okay. Because I
Sure.
already know how you feel about this, but I love for you to share it with the other folks. How do
Okay.
you measure the ROI of empathy-driven leadership practices, right? And what should those metrics, um, what metrics should they use to track and engage the success in that area?
See, you know this because you know I have to buck the system, right? Like I
Yeah.
said, poor Mike, he asked me this question once, y'all, and I said, "You're asking the wrong question," because I really do believe that we get to the the end all when we start to just focus on our people. I think we get a happy byproduct of an ROI. But I think the reality of it is we've got to focus investing in our people, making sure that they want to come to work, that they're excited about coming to work, and doing it in that kind of customized developmental way. I'm really seeing on our employees, standardized programs do not work. The more and more that we keep seeing it, you know, guys, here's something that's really funny. Let's think about kiddos taking standardized tests going K through 12 right now. They take the STAR test or whatever test that is these days. They keep changing their names over the years. But we tell those kiddos, get a good meal, get a good night's sleep, all of that kind of stuff. You know, make sure that the room is not stressful, right? So like all of the conditions around these kiddos is really, really formative and supportive for their success. We do the exact opposite in our organizations, don't we? We reward people burning the midnight oil. We work them so hard that they skip their lunches, they're not eating, they're not taking care of themselves, the workplaces are chaotic. Like we do the opposite and then still expect them to excel. And then we start asking about things like, you know, what's our ROI? Well, dadgummit, we haven't even started to create an environment for formative success for them. So we can't even have the conversation of ROI until we do that first. Once we create learning environments, developmental environments that focus on continual growth, we can't even start to, you know, think about measuring that type of success. We got to create the environments first, and we just haven't been doing that for quite a while.
You know, that kind of goes to my second question. First of all, why? Is it a lack of time awareness? They don't see the importance of trying to evolve with, where things are going, not just technology, but with people and lifestyle, right? What are one or two things that you see as an impediment to leaders and organizations actually doing some of these things or trying to learn some of these new things?
So it goes back to Debbie saying that people model the behaviors for them. We see that. You know, I see it a lot as a professor. I see people kind of modeling the behaviors that were established for them. I see that in trades, a lot of the industries that I work with, whether it's first responders or it's in the building trades, where we've got generational embeddedness, meaning, you know, I have iron workers stand up and say, I'm a fourth generation iron worker. Like I've yet to hear someone say I'm a fourth generation office manager. So we've got these kind of generational embeddedness components going on. And sadly, because of that, it just means we don't move the needle, right? So we're not thinking outside the box. And then we mean well, we send people to a training program or we bring in a consultant, but those consultants are talking about pain or talking points rather than people's genuine pain points. And people don't feel like they've been seen, they don't feel like they're heard. And so it just feels like we're talking at each other rather than integrating and having conversations, meaningful conversations. And so those barriers to me, it's good intentions, but it's just continuing to do the things that we've seen model for. We keep trying the same strategies. We don't feel comfortable with that experimental component. We don't feel comfortable with being curious about what else could we be doing. And what we're seeing here in the States is a lot more of an interest in freelance and gig economy opportunities. We're seeing those numbers climb up quite a bit. We're seeing more of an interest in union careers. And I don't think it's particularly because people are interested in those career pathways. I think it's because people go, you know, that organizational loyalty didn't exactly work out for my parents. So maybe I should try something differently. So the curiosity and the experimental activity is happening on the employee side, not the employer side. It's going to have to start on the employer side. to really move the needle.
Absolutely. Well said. And now I see the comments firing up, so that's going to be fun. Let's get to two more questions, and then we'll bring the panelists up because this is really a great topic. I'm learning a lot. What you said earlier about silver lining of just trying and experimenting with new things, right? Worst case, you look like you're trying to your boardroom, right? Or you're, whoever's above, right? Sea level. But also, it could work. Like everybody's like, what if it doesn't work? And this is where the guide comes into place. It could be scary to go out there and do something maybe you're not familiar with. But when you tap in the resources, hire folks and consultants like these people, that makes sense. It may be new in theory to you, but it's not to them. That's why we're hiring them. It's like if my car gets messed up or the engine isn't working, I don't know. I don't go take tools and play with it. I'm not that good at it, right? I take it to someone who is. And I think that
Right.
resistance, let me ask you this question on that thought. So let's say leaders really do want to innovate their thinking, really try to get ahead of all of the technological and cultural differences and, kind of really just make a streamlined business in 2024, right? What steps can leaders take to bridge that gap between that traditional leadership thinking and the needs of today's diverse, multi-generational workforce?
So I love this because Scott, Debbie, and I all do customized consulting and training, right? And it
Right.
has to be customized. And what the very first step of this, and Scott and I have had this conversation previously, it's got to happen with credibility. If you don't have credibility, you're dead in the water. And sadly, many organizational leaders actually do not have credibility with their people. They have a title, there's some fear element, and growth cannot occur in an environment of fear, right? So employees are kind of afraid of their leaders, which is wrong. And then the other side of this is, sadly, we've got employees who use this amorphous they of like, they are the ones making these decisions, not appreciating the impact on us, or something like that, right? And I have to bring this down. And I have to ask the employees, who is this they you're talking about? The ones you see walking around in the hallway? Like, do you really think they want you to fail? I have yet to hear an executive tell me, Mandolen, I hope this organization fails on my watch. So it's like being able to create
Yep.
a healthy level of credibility from the top leadership all the way down. So, in order for them to bridge that gap, the first thing they have to do is make sure that they have credibility. Because if they've got credibility, they can start to engender that buy in and start to facilitate questions. Again, we've got holidays coming up right now. I see a lot of companies do things like a Christmas party or something like that. And I love how after the fact they do a post-mortem where they're like, I think our employees like that. And I'll ask, did you ask them before the Christmas party if they would be interested in that? Did you tell them that you were thinking about throwing this and you were going to spend this money on it and you were doing it for their benefit? And give them a survey and say, would they rather have that? Would they rather have a gift card? Would they rather have whatever? Did you give them options? Well, no. And I'm like, right. So you're not letting them have a voice. And then if the employees don't show up, the employer or the top leaders get ticked off, right? They're like, we spent all
Right.
this money and nobody came and they're so ungrateful. And it's like, again, they're not talking to each other. They don't have that credibility built in. So we've got to make sure we have credibility with our people and that we really are listening to their voice, that we're creating those avenues in a non-performative way, genuine ways where we're trying to understand what it is they need, what it is that's going to help them be successful, and feel supported.
Absolutely. Wow. All right. So when you said credibility, I thought about that'd be like a 17-year-old life coach, right? Like, how much can you really, how much life can you be coaching about when you're 17? Okay. And I see people in the back just dying. Yeah, Scott loved that one. I did that for you, buddy. So also being intentional, right, about the gift card example. It reminds me of the book called, The Five Love Languages, right?
Yeah.
It's the intention to say, hey, well, I recognize your 10 years of service to the company. Here's a pin that we gave everybody for the last 20 years, right? I can see how that doesn't really translate into, wow, I feel special. Like maybe if Scott Heathman actually threw a birthday party for you in the break room at the Air Force Base, that would go over well, right? With your favorite colors. So what you're talking about to me is striking, because this is not, you don't have to do grandiose things. It's in the small things, right? Like that's what you
Right.
mean. It's in this,
Yep.
from everything from the supervisors, the ground level leaders, all the way to the top. Little things make a difference. And that's what I mean. It's like, well, we have this massive budget for recognition when you can come in and tweak a few cheaper free things and have probably equal or greater results because you're actually
Yeah.
doing it. Go ahead.
Sorry, I got really excited about this.
Yeah.
Scott and I had a conversation about this, and Scott was saying when he would go out on missions that he actually built into their plans people's like specific dates, like so if it was somebody's anniversary, because they were crossing time zones and stuff, so that they could hold each other accountable about being like, hey, don't forget to reach out to your wife or something. And I said, Scott, isn't it interesting how companies always celebrate somebody's birthday, but we have a lot of people who don't like their birthdays. I'm one of them. But, it'd be interesting if we started to ask people, is there a date you would like for us to celebrate? Maybe your date of sobriety, maybe a date of overcoming cancer, something like that. Or maybe, is there a date that you need us to be more supportive as colleagues? Maybe it's a time that you've lost a significant member of your family or something like that. And is there a time where we can come as a community together and be more supportive of you? If we could ask people if there are dates in their lives that they would like for us to honor them, think about how that's such a small thing on the front end, right? But what a massive way of showing that we genuinely care. That's the true well-being we're trying to talk about here, right?
Wow. So look, because I know Debbie and Scott's got to be jumping up and down back there. So tell folks if they want to plug in and get to know you, your resources. We have the website. Let them know what that is again. But what's the next steps? Should they DM you? Should they reach out through the website, whatever channel, and is it just a conversation? Do you do a deep dive? How do you help companies get started? What's the first step?
Yep, they can DM me on LinkedIn. They can reach out on our momentum.com website. We've got a team that's always happy to talk with them. I usually will take the first one, see how we can support them and get them aligned with towards the things that will help them feel like they're getting on path for sustainable success.
All right, I'm bringing y'all up. I hope everybody get ready. All right, wake up if you fell asleep back there in the green room. All right, you ready? There we go. There's Scott. Oh, there's Debbie in her loft. All right.
There's
Well,
no
thank
way
you
we could
all.
have fallen asleep back here. That was a phenomenal conversation with Mandolen. So that it was perfect.
You got it. You got it. See, I was hoping somebody would catch that, right? This is like, playing ping pong. No, it's always striking it. And again, guys, you guys have the heart. You care about people. You care about the organization. And just your presence makes it more fun. Sometimes we lack that in the corporate setting. We get too dadgum serious and we forget, hey, we got to spend 8-10 hours a day in this place. Man, let's make the most of it, right? Look at Scott. He's like, oh, yeah, especially in military, right? So let me see. I know we had questions back there. Let me try to find them. Please try to retype them. I know there's one for Scott. So April Wyatt, she wants to know, Scott, how have you noticed the ripple effect into your family and communities?
Oh, you mean, so I'm assuming like how does the leadership that I've learned or that we've all talked about today, how does that ripple back into your family or communities?
Yes.
I'll be really honest, like these areas are perfect and ripe for areas to practice. Matter of fact, I will say sometimes the family environment is the hardest environment to practice leadership skills. But I would hope that those loved ones around you will tell you straight to your face, hey, that's probably not the way you should say that, or probably not the way you should approach things. I would not have been a good military leader without my spouse at my side. And there are so many times I bounced off ideas or talking points or, how I was going to deliver a certain set of talking points, or especially during the pandemic, because there are so many dynamics going on. This thing was just just eating away at us, stress that we're piling on top of one another, so that our cortisol levels were through the roof. Yet people are just like ducks, on water. They look calm, but they are paddling like crazy below the waterline. And so using my spouse, using my son to talk to them about, hey, this is how I should approach students, military dependents on a base. It's the same way with communities. When I would go out into the community and talk with the mayors, talk with the superintendents, talk with civic leaders, whether they are at local government, state government, federal government level, because we had senators and congressmen and women that were always coming to the base. I talked to them the same way I talk to my airmen. I'm polite, obviously, and I used all the proper protocol and everything, but I'm going to tell them straight what's going on from my perspective, but I'm also going to ask them a lot of questions, because I'd like to know what they are thinking about, what concerns they have, and maybe get some intel of, hey, what can we perhaps bring to the fight as a collaborative team here? It's not just about my needs, it's about their needs too. And those two paper plates, as I call them, of needs, they have to be somewhat equal, because as soon as somebody else's paper plate gets too big, well, now I feel a little bit less important. And that's when the defenses start going up. So I'm always looking for ways to kind of keep those paper plates of needs, whether it's family, community, on equal balance here.
Oh, and by the way, Scott has a paper plate exercise that you guys have to tune into and call him. Find out. It's brilliant. He can talk about it in 2 minutes. It makes total sense. And you can go try it out, and then you'll actually want to talk to him and hire him. All right. So, Debbie, I imagine you want to chime in on this, because this is your wheelhouse.
Yeah. So just it's interesting when we talk about a ripple effect into the family and our communities. I actually have a husband who did not come from corporate America. So I did not have the opportunity to come home and bounce those ideas off of. What I did find is that I reached out and ensured that I did have a network of others who I did respect their, I respected their opinions. I respected their ideas. And that's not to say that I didn't come home for support. My husband provided support and it had a very different ripple effect than Scott being able to go to his wife, who understood the dynamics of maybe the military life or corporate or whatever the case may be. So I think it's really important that we identify those mentors, those coaches, whatever that is. And I know Mandolen talks about, upward and downward mentorship. Anyone really can be a mentor. And I think it's just really important to be open to it, to be able to continue to grow in those areas when you may not necessarily have that, you have a different type of support at home or outside of the office. So Scott and I think we like to, we jokingly say we agree to disagree, but I think we agree so much more than what we actually disagree. It's just a very different way of looking at things in order for us to be able to reach the masses, because there's so many ways in which we can operate in this new world of being human, of being authentic, of having the courage and stepping in and being a servant leader.
Well said, Mandolen.
I agree, Debbie. I agree with you.
I'm tempted to try to fight them like Pokemon, but that won't work. They're privy to my nonsense. So, Mandolen, you have thoughts here? I go to the next question. It's up to you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for me, it really has been exactly what Debbie says. I'm mentoring. I had phenomenal mentors. I am the beneficiary of incredible mentors. So I call it generational mentorship, because I also am heavily inspired and learning from all the time my own mentees. And so being able, for me, quite frankly, that has been my network far more than family. And my family would tell you that. They would tell you that I'm pretty crappy with the family front, other than being an overnight foster mom, which has been a phenomenal experience for me. But yeah, as far as my mother and sister and father would tell you, I'm kind of like MIA most of the time. So, leaning into my family for inspiration or leaning into them for insight hasn't always been there. But I will tell you, my mentors and my mentees have really been a sustainable agent of growth for me. And that's been incredibly powerful. So I think it's the family that you define. And for me, my work has brought an enormous amount of family members. That's been really, really incredible.
Fantastic. All right, so we're about at the end of this. The question that Steve had earlier, and I know there's a lot of questions. They're hard to dig out. You can't pin them on the backstage here. It's crazy. But I want to end on this, and I want you to let folks know. Remember, let them know your website, let them know where to find you, how to connect with you, and what the first steps is. Because this would be crazy, insane for folks not to reach out. Somebody reach out, and say, "Hey, I like to learn more about this. Save me time, money, and cost." Yeah, no, I'm not interested. Right? That's what they'd have to say. So how do you define culture, and specifically in your wheelhouse? How do you define culture? But what are some practical applications of that? How can folks get little baby steps now? You know me, I like to give people stuff they can use so they know I'm not full of it, and then they come back and go, "Oh my God, it worked." So that might be the paper plate thing for you, Scott. But let's start with Debbie. Debbie, how do you define culture? Take it away, my friend.
Oh my gosh, that is such a deep question, actually. I think that it really comes down to that shared vision, the behaviors that we allow. I also believe that there's a lot of micro cultures. If you don't set the culture that you want in an organization, and that's if you are just starting out or you're kind of a one person show. I've been in business for 6 years by myself. But I have very specific behaviors, values, excuse me, morals, etc., that I encompass. And that's the culture that I want to bring forward into and with the clients that I work with. But I also recognize, coming from 30 years of corporate America, that if it doesn't start at the top, you're going to have a culture regardless. And it's likely you're going to have lots of different cultures, and they're probably not what you really want to be known for as an organization. So I think it starts at the top. I think that setting the vision, setting the behaviors, talking about actions, having open lines of communication, etc., that is what helps set a culture.
Nice. Love it. Love it. And everyone connect Invisible Horizons, connect with Debbie on LinkedIn. Also the website, scan the QR code, and we'll be pushing this out. Next couple of weeks, we'll be on YouTube, on Hounds of Business at YouTube, and also LinkedIn on my feature section. So you guys can DM me if you want their contact information as well. Let's move over to Dr. Mandolen Mull, who just likes to be Mandolen because she's just, really cool like that. So
Yeah.
how would you like to chime in here, my friend?
Yeah, so culture, I think, is a word we use a lot, but don't actually define a lot, right? I hear a lot of HR personnel being like, "We have a culture problem." I'm like, what does that mean? And here's the analogy I use, guys, is I say, if you have a healthy fish and you put it in a dirty fish bowl, pretty soon you no longer have a healthy fish. And the worst thing about that is that fish starts to think it's their problem. So that's when we start to have employees burning out. We start having employees thinking, "Oh, well, I must have this kind of problem. I must have that, whatever." And then the other thing about it is, let's say we have a healthy fish, we put it in healthy water, but fish are disgusting. They do disgusting things. They flake and all kinds of stuff. So the water has to keep being clean. So when I think about culture, I have to think about, how am I keeping the water clean for the people around me? And what I think is, going back to what I said earlier about fundamental attribution bias. I judge you based off of your behavior, but I judge me based off of my intention. I've got to overcome that bias. All of us have it. That's fine. You have a friend who says there are monsters in the room, whether you turn the lights on or not. Turn the lights on. Fundamental attribution is a monster there. We've got to turn the lights on and start looking for people's intentions. When we create that space for grace, that grace space, that's where culture lives. that's when we can really start to move the needle. That's the tangible component, is if I can see someone's intention and then really start to lean into that and say, okay, like, how can we get into alignment here? We start to really move forward in supportive ways. And so that to me is how I would define culture. Is all of us cleaning the water for each other, but it starts with us really understanding that people are messy. I'm messy, you're messy. Let's navigate this messy environment together. That's the stuff that I think is really important.
It goes back to the shared vision, and it sounds good on paper. You're talking about implementing it though. There's a big difference, man. I'm not going to pick on it, but never mind. I'm not going to go there. If y'all want to hear my dissertation on it, I'll separate myself from these folks and then go on my YouTube and say it. But there's this. One of the companies was with hire within policy. Well, hire within. And I'm going, yeah, I'm going to say it. To me, back in my 20-year-old mind, I said, that's like corporate inbreeding. That's the reason yeah, I know. That's the reason innovation is stagnated. And here's the funny part. They had such a lockdown operation. You could have terrible management. It would still work. However, just think, how much better would it be if both sides of the coin worked out well, right? You had a happy, efficient, and innovative management team on top of a lockdown system. To me, it's crazy. It's like, well, we pull in a billions of dollars. Yeah, but you'd have more billions if you did both. But anyway, that's another discussion, because I just saw Mandolen go, oh, wow, that's another 2 hours for her. She could go crazy. So you guys connect with these brilliant folks. Scott Heathman. All right. Last but certainly not least, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, I love this question from Steve. Steve, thanks for being here. Such a good friend. And I do want to give a shout out to Arlene Ogan. Her and her husband's a chief master sergeant down in Del Rio, Texas. And I know that means something to Mandolen. So big shout out to you all down in Southwest Texas. Culture to me is this. I love the goldfish, the fish example. To me, it's the values and the environment that we choose to operate in. I've tried to get really simple with this, but it is a question that we do need to, as an organization, especially as a leader, you got to ask yourself that: what is our culture? What is your culture? Because it's everyone's responsibility, but who sets it? It's the leader. It is your responsibility. The rest of the folks are responsible for the climate, the tone, like the mood of the organization. We all play a critical role in this thing. It's not just 100% on the leader. It's all of ours. But overarching authority and responsibility, it starts at the top. And I think we have to take accountability as leaders that you own it, whether it's good or bad. And if it's trending negative, you better start doing something about it. And you can't just blame your employees, right? So we got to figure out ways that maybe we've got to go back and readdress values, or maybe people's individual values. Like, there's no commonality with the organizational values. So maybe we need to look at both how they match up too. Because Wells Fargo figured this out real quick when they got into that opening up fake account debacle, where their strategy became a metric and everybody started doing illegal things. Really good people started doing unethical things. And so I don't blame necessarily everybody in that organization. They were just trying to get after a singular metric, which leadership decided, well, this is our new strategy. We got to open up more accounts. I mean, that's just one case study of many that I can think of where culture just kind of eroded from the inside, but it really started at the top. So everybody, though, should question if something feels off. And it's okay, leaders, if a subordinate comes up to you and asks, do you mind if I make an observation, sir or ma'am? Can I offer some advice or recommendation? Leaders cannot get defensive at that kind of language, because your employee is about to tell you and speak the truth. And that is amazing. I love those employees. I'm like, I'm all ears. What do you got? That's not them just complaining. That's them actually trying to talk. If it sounds like complaining, I think you got to first ask yourself, do I open the door enough for them to talk to me? Because maybe I don't. And now they're raising their voices to try to get my attention because nothing else is working. So again, I think it's set by the leader, but we all own it, and we got to each take our chunk of this and do something about it when it starts to go a little bit south. So that's how I would think about it.
Oh, they're going to get your attention when they get a new job or start that business they've been working late night for. Because again, we could reopen this whole can of worms, because retention costs are through the roof. Like, what does it take to invest in a well-oiled machine, building empathy-driven leaders, empowering and helping the culture? Well, that takes a lot of time and money. Yeah, and guess what else takes way more time and money? Replacing this all the time, replacing talent. They're chasing 50-cent raises, for Pete's sake. So if you're looking for a way to innovate, to roll forward, move forward in a way that's just going to help you grow your bottom line. That's what we're all here for, right? Shareholders, stockholder prices. This is what we're talking about. But it does take a people aspect, right? When people are happy, they're more effective. Come on. Even I know that. Everybody knows that. My daughter's from like 7th grade, right? She's much more better at homework when she's happy, right? Than to make her do it, right? So thank you all so much for spending your time here. I know we went way over, and nobody cares. The comments are still bumping. Thank you all for bringing this true value to this presentation. It's my hope that folks will see your heart, see that you're the solution, okay, to help them move forward, break past whatever barrier challenge that they're facing, pull their head out of the sand and say, listen, let's go out there and talk to these leading industry experts who have done it in multiple industries. And amazing. So thank you all for making this special. Steve, great question, my friend. Pleasure meeting you here. And listen, hey, we're about to roll out of here, but don't do it alone. If you want to be surrounded by heart-centered, high-level professionals that can help you with the resources and tools you need to succeed at that next level, hey, Hounds of Business, look, proof positive, right? So I appreciate you guys making the pack what it is today. And folks who may not know who we are, hey, reach out. All right, Hounds of Business YouTube, we have a group call, LinkedIn. You can send a carrier pigeon. Just don't do it yourself. This is hard stuff. But you guys, listen, whether you're just starting off or you have a big company, the impact we can make, all right, is huge. All the stuff, like I said earlier, all the things in life that we can't stomach, right? The challenges we went through, right? People have a desire to realize that through their business, but they won't because they don't have the support, resources, guide, coaches, expert necessary to get it done. That's why we do these things. Thank you for supporting in drones. We will replay this. It's on YouTube, and we will put out some short videos here shortly. So thank you all so much. Plug into these folks. Thank you. And we'll have a next one in November 12th. All right, that's the next one. If you're looking to start or scale up a business already, there are 3 speakers with 3 components you need to do that. Okay, so this is going to catapult you into the next season. So mark your calendars. November 12th. That's 10 a.m. New York City time in the morning. 10 a.m. New York City time Eastern. All right, we'll see you on the next one. Have a great one, guys. Appreciate you. We've been working on that princess wave, Scott. There it is.
Looks like your business might be in a bit of a pickle. Don't you worry about a thing. You ain't alone in this. You're just a success story waiting to happen. Trust me on that. Every bump in the road is just an opportunity wearing a clever disguise. Welcome to the Hounds of Business Community, where we don't just sit around twiddling our thumbs. Nope. We turn those obstacles into mighty fine stepping stones. This here's a place where high-level entrepreneurs and sharp professionals gather to grow their businesses and mindsets, kind of like how a good old gumbo needs the right ingredients to be something special. Ideas thrive here, and collaborations? Well, they're as natural as sweet tea on a hot day. Success? It's a journey, and we're fixing to walk that road right beside you. Now, don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn for all the latest tips and insights. We're talking about the kind of wisdom that'll keep you ahead of the game. And while you're at it, head on over to our YouTube channel. We've got ourselves a treasure trove of videos, from expert interviews to webinars, everything you need to stay sharp in this fast-moving world of business. The Hounds of Business Community? Well, we ain't just a network, we're a movement. So why not come on and be part of something bigger? Join us today and let's turn your business journey into a real Southern success story. Together, we'll achieve greatness, just like crawfish and singing on a Friday.